Happy Sunday, knitters! Welcome to the Knitty McPurly podcast, episode 130. I'm your host, Devin You can find me online at KnittyMcPurly.com. If you want to email me, I am Devin at KnittyMcPurly.com, and I'm on Instagram as Knitty McPurly. So please join me in any of those places. Thank you so much to all of you who have subscribed, because I have over 5,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. If you're new to the podcast and you would like to see more, click the subscribe button and you can see this pop up every Sunday when I have a new podcast. Yay, it's Sunday. It got really hot toward the end of the week, which was great. I did not mind. But today it's in the 70s again, and I'm very happy about it. So I am really excited about a day of knitting. My husband left this morning to go out of town. So we actually went to Mass last night. So I am pulled together from the waist up, and then I just have my Costco sweats on that I slept in. Also, you might notice my sleeve here. When I had my breast cancer surgery, they took out lymph nodes, and most of the time that doesn't bother me. But with the heat, when the heat set in and I was outside and I was exercising, my arm just puffed up and it just got super painful and achy. And that's kind of a bummer, because I want to put cancer behind me, like I want to move on from it. I don't want any reminders of it. I just want it gone. And I had to pull out my gigantic pump that sits next to my bed and looks super ugly. It makes my room look like a hospital, and I hate that. And I have to wear this ugly sleeve. But I just need to have a good attitude about it, because that is where we are. That is where I am. I need to accept it and say, thank you, Lord, for this gift that you have given me that keeps on giving. So anyway, that's why I have one black arm and one regular arm. I have a bunch of announcements. I have a bunch of things, like introductory things that I want to talk about before I get into the podcast. So let me start with the Spaces Planner. A lovely podcast watcher and longtime customer named Jamie sent me a message, and Jamie said, I cannot express how much encouragement your podcast gives me. I especially love the last episode when you talk more about your faith, and I think that was a couple episodes ago. She says, it's why I take so much joy in supporting your business. Thank you so much, Jamie. She said, just this week, I learned about this Christian small business that makes a pretty unique planner from a fellow knitter. And since so many knitters also like to plan, I thought it might be something you'd like to include on the podcast. So it's a woman whose name is Rachel, and she has a planner called the Spaces Planner. And I will put a link below to her website if you want to go and learn more about it. But basically, the gist of this lady's story is I totally relate to her, because she's a mom and an entrepreneur, and she has a small business, and she has 5 kids. And she heard about these 3 kids who were going to be put into the system and probably separated. They needed a home. And she just felt like, she prayed and she felt like, I need to take in these kids. And her husband was like, okay. They were talking about it. And in the course of the talk, the husband says, what about your business? And she was like, I don't know, but I feel like we need to take in these kids. And so she realized that in order for her to do next year's planner, a planner for 2024, which it looks like a 12-month planner, she needs 300 people to pre-order the planner. So I actually sent her a message this morning, like 2 hours ago, saying, how many more do you need? And if I hear back from her, I haven't heard back from her yet, obviously, because it is 9:30 in the morning on a Sunday. If I hear back from her, then I will update that in the description box below, how many more they need. But if you are a person who likes to have a planner and you would like to pre-order one for 2024, if you pre-order it today or tomorrow, like it has to be done by tomorrow, and I apologize for that because Jamie actually asked me a week ago and I meant to say it last week, but I forgot. So if you're a person who wants a planner and you are interested in supporting this lovely family and their now 8 children, go pre-order one. They have a couple different designs. It's Christian in nature. A lot of knitters use it because it has lots of different, what's the word? Places, you know, like it's called the Spaces Planner. It has lots of different sections. It's beautiful, you know, places where you can plan out your knitting projects and write notes and whatnot. So if you're a person who likes that, this might be right up your alley. Also, if you like to support people who do amazing things like this woman is doing, please go and pre-order her planner. Yeah, here's a picture of her family. Now I counted and there's only 6 children in this picture. So I don't know, maybe 2 of them didn't want to be in the picture. That's my guess. I don't know, but it's a beautiful picture. They look like a beautiful family. So I just wanted to let you know about that. The pre-order ends tomorrow, Monday, June 5th. So they need to get to 300. So please go pre-order that if you're interested. Okay, the next thing I want to talk to you about is, do you remember from my episode 100, the sisters, Julie and Deb? Do you remember them? Of course you do, because they were so much fun and they told their story so well on video. And everybody said, Julie and Deb, you need your own podcast. Well, guess what? Tentatively, we think maybe Julie has finally talked Deb into doing it. And Julie is me. Like, Julie and I are soul sisters. I totally understand her. She did it. She tried to talk Deb into it in exactly the way that I would, where I would put a ton of work into it. Julie put up an introductory podcast, which I will link below. And she like edited this video. She learned all this video editing. They have a logo. Like, she went to so much trouble to do this as a way of talking Deb into doing. So this is like the introductory podcast and it's just Julie, but it's great because Julie's so much fun. And then they're going to have an episode 1 with both sisters. So if you have not already seen it, go watch it and leave a comment and give Deb some encouraging words to get her on board with episode 1. But Julie, it's so funny because this is kind of exactly what I did to my husband, who is my Deb, right? They're the break. And thank God for the break, because otherwise we'd go 1,000 miles an hour into outer space. We need the break. But I did the same thing with my husband, only mine was a 10-year plan. So I basically said back in 2016, when I launched the podcast, I basically said, I'm going to give myself 10 years to start a business. And if it works out, great. This is going to be my job for the rest of my life. And if it doesn't work out, if I can't bring in enough money to, you know, see my kids through college and pay for weddings and all that sort of thing, if I can't do that, then I'll have to go out and get a real job, which I do not want to do. So it's going well. Update, 8 years in, it's going well. It's looking good. So hopefully Julie and I can convince our Deb and James, in my case, to let us, you know, do our fun thing into the future. But anyway, I was super impressed with this podcast. It's like 20 minutes and it's just an introduction. And first of all, Julie is a camper. And so she's out in the wilderness and it's beautiful. And I do not camp or hike, but I want to camp and hike. Another thing, like that's my husband is the break. And I would love to get him interested in those things. And I've kind of tried to get him to say yes to our family going out into the woods in a cabin for a few days this summer. We'll see. Or we could hike, not camp because we'd be in a cabin, but definitely hike. Anyway, I was super impressed with what a prolific knitter Julie is. She shows a ton of projects that she's working on, and I was very inspired by that. She's working on a blanket particularly that I loved. It's a crochet blanket. Sounds like she got it as a kit, but the colors just are so beautiful together. I absolutely love them. So go check out the Knitty Cats podcast, subscribe so you can get updates when Deb signs on. All right, third introductory thing, 3 of 4, is Woolen Works Designs. So this lovely mother-daughter team who came to my retreat and I got to meet there, and they're wonderful. And funnily enough, there was a picture on Instagram of Deb and Julie and me and this mother-daughter team also who runs Woolen Works. So here is a picture of the 5 of us from the retreat. I'm wearing my crazy overalls. It was great. These two groups of ladies got together and really connected over the retreat, and they're still friends today, and that is wonderful. Anyway, Woolen Works Designs is a new website. I think they've only been up for a couple of months. You can go follow them on Instagram. I will link all that down below. I'll link their website and their Instagram. And they have knitting project bags and notions and wool wash. People have been asking me if I'm going to continue selling wool wash, because I have over the past year, and I've actually decided to discontinue that. And the reason is because it's just kind of a pain. It's hard to ship. It's easy to make a mess, and it's just more trouble than it's worth at this point. There's a lot of good wool washes out there. Woolen Works Designs has a wool wash, so if you're interested in trying a new one, I definitely recommend theirs. I have not tried it myself, but it's probably great, so go check that out. Okay, the last introductory thing is happy birthday to my dad. It is my dad's birthday today. Yay! How old is he? I can't remember. 76, I think. My mom will probably correct me. Okay. All right. Moving along to progress and shop news. So the faux set MCAL, in case you missed it, because some people have been messaging me saying, oh no, I missed the deadline for the mystery knit-along. Mystery, no, not an MCAL, just a cal. I've had 3 cups of coffee this morning, but I think I'm all off my schedule because my husband left and we didn't go to Mass this morning. We went last night and it's all weird. The faux set knit-along has been extended through the end of June. So what that means is if you have not yet joined in, you still can, and you have time to knit a whole faux set, a wee faux set or an adult size faux set, because they are super fast. They knit themselves, I kid you not. 3 skeins of yarn for almost every size. Up to, what did I say, like a 44-inch bust, you can still work it with only 3 skeins of DK yarn. If you want to buy it from me, you can still get the knitting pattern, the faux set or the wee faux set, and all of the Dubrovnik DK for 20% off with code FAUXETALONG2023. So that is still up. It's not in my banner anymore on my website, but it still works, and it will work through the end of June. Speaking of June, June's color is here. Welcome to June. I'm a little late, not super late. It's only 4 days into June, but June's color is here, and June just says so many things. It's just a month of so many things. And this color just feels June to me. Are you ready? I'm going to show it to you. Yay! So I spend most of my June at the pool with my 2 children who do swim team. And so I really wanted June to reflect kind of that pool beach vibe. So this is a mixture of frost in the background, Beryl as the most prominent second color, with a meadow speckle, and Roxette as a speckle. So these are the 4 colors that coordinate with June's color. And if you want them in DK, all of them are 20% off right now. So even the June color is 20% off in the DK only. Now I'm doing the color of the month on Frankfurt Fingering and Dubrovnik DK. So if you want either of those bases, you can go and get those. I still have a few skeins of April's color of the month just on the fingering weight, and May is also still available in the fingering weight and the DK. So these 2 are get them now or forever hold your peace, because when they're gone, they're gone. June though, if this sells out, I will have more throughout the month of June. So that is June's color of the month. Very excited. The Roxette is subtle, but it's it's the beach, you know? And I just love a super cool and a super warm. I think those look really good together. It is a good combination. All right, another thing new in the shop is labels. I've actually had these labels for a while, and it's taken me this long to get them up in the shop. I apologize for that. but they're there. Right now, I have labels for the Vesper sweater, which I showed before. I also have brand new labels that you've never seen before for the Fossette crop, and they have a little picture of the Eiffel Tower on them because the Fossette just makes me think of everything French. And finally, the Diggory tee, which is a color label, and the Diggory tee is going to be coming soon. I'll talk about that more in a little bit. But those 3 sweaters currently have labels in the shop. If you want to go get those, they are $3 per label. If there's a sweater that you want a label for, just send me an email. And if I get enough requests, maybe I'll do more. We'll see. We'll see how these ones do. Vesper is a free pattern, and Fossette is my most popular pattern. So I thought those would be great to start with. And the Diggory tee was the one that inspired me to do the labels at all, even though that is actually a t-shirt that you can easily tell the back from the front because they are different. Oh, which reminds me, I am wearing my Watership sweater today in the short-sleeved version. It's a pain to get long sleeves over the sleeve, and so I wanted to wear short sleeves, but this is a full-length, like full-hip sweater, and you can either, there are directions for a long sleeve version, which I also own, and also a short sleeve version. And this is a fingering weight sweater. I just love it. It's very bobbly and lacy on the top, and then it's just stockinette after that. But this is a fingering weight sweater, and I knit mine in Brooklyn Tweed Loft in the postcard colorway, which is a fabulous color. Like, you can see it from a distance where it is purplish, but it's gray. I mean, it has speckles of dark purple, light purple, pink, black, even red in places. Like, it's just a really beautiful, beautiful color. All right, coming on to my knitting slump. So I will also say, before I get to the slump, that I just put up a video about my sock ruler, and I showed you this video already on the podcast where I have my custom markings on the back. So the reason I put the video up was because I wanted to have a QR code linking to the video on the packaging that goes with this. So I put the video up and I made the QR code and I ordered the card that goes with this. So this is going to be up in the shop whenever that comes in, probably within 2 weeks. I'll have the sock rulers up if you've been waiting for that and hoping that I would get that in soon. So probably about 2 weeks. So that said, in my beautiful bag from Ray over at Longleaf Bags, this was part of my Mother's Day kit. I finished one sock for Gigi and I had her try it on. And it's just a basic vanilla sock. And I used yarn from Mystery Mouse, Holly over at Mystery Mouse, who won my haiku award last podcast. And I finished that one. And I cast on the second one. So I showed you last time when I did the video for the sock ruler, I had a toe up sock. I really just did that to show you how to do that on with a toe up sock with the sock ruler, but I don't knit toe up socks. So I ripped all that out and I cast on the second sock. But of course, second sock syndrome has set in. But it's nice to have this because sometimes you just need a car knitting project or a movie knitting project where you just want to sit there and coast along on a sock around and around. And so I have that ready to go. So I've been working on that a little bit, but not a lot. And I hit kind of a knitting slump. It's been several things that went into this slump. My arm was hurting. We all have either allergies or a little cold. I'm not sure which it is. You know, just like a headache and the usual allergy symptoms, but a little more malaise. But particularly Charlotte and I are just, you know, feeling a little bit under the weather. And I finished, you know, the Vesper test ended and the Gilded test ended and those sweaters got out. And right now I'm facing writing the Diggory pattern, which I have started doing. And I really enjoy pattern writing. It's math that I like, strangely enough. But I didn't have a project that I was really excited about knitting. So Charlotte told me she wanted a knitted dress, and I thought maybe, you know, during the Faucette along, I could cast on another wee Faucette for her and make it into a dress. That would be really fun. So I rolled that idea around in my head a little bit. I also, and I put that out, like every time I put out a post on Instagram or a newsletter, I say, what about this? What should I do? And so I mentioned the Faucette dress in one of them. And in another one, I mentioned making another gilded sweater, which I would really love because the gilded sweater is so easy to wear. It's so loose and comfortable and soft. So I thought about that, and I went over some color ideas in my head about what would be good for that. But then I thought, you know, I have so many older patterns that I designed before I dyed my own yarn, and so I'm not using my yarn in the pattern. I thought it would be nice to go back and knit some of those in my yarn. So I ultimately decided on my Awaken sweater, which I have only knit the once. This is a fingering weight sweater, and it comes in 9 sizes. Most of my sweaters come in 8 sizes, but this one just worked out that I did it with 9. So it's size 0 through 8. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is 9 sizes. And that's just how it worked out. Because the sweater that I made for myself ended up being what would normally be my smallest size. So I wear that with a smaller amount of ease. But I thought I really want one in a bigger size. And I think it would be cool if I knit it in all one color. So I thought about the sweaters that I have and the colors that I have and what color sweater I would really like, and I decided on Meadow. So my Meadow color is a very bright grassy green, hence the name Meadow. And I have just started. I basically cast this on last night, and I did the neckband, and I've just done the setup row and the first row of lace. So this is the most complicated sweater pattern that I have, in that it has lace, bobbles, and color work. I mean, I have other sweaters like that, but this is more complicated lace. And I say that it's complicated in the sense that it was complicated to design because all of those numbers had to work over the course of 9 sizes, and that was complicated, but it's not complicated to knit. And because I am removing the color work, that also will make it less complicated. But I say that, but how cool would it be if I used my June color as my second color? That would be amazing. So I might do that. I really haven't decided yet, but I kind of want a 1-color sweater. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I'm on the fence. We'll see. Anyway, I am making the size 3, which is the 4th size. And that, I think, gives me, I didn't bring the pattern up here, but it will give me a finished bust measurement of 42 inches, I think 42.5, which gives me 6 inches of ease in the middle. So this will be a much less fitted sweater than my other one, because I am making, instead of the size 1, I'm making a size 3. So 2 sizes up. I just wanted to have a lot more ease in the sweater. I also might play around with the sleeves and do a sleeve like I did on my gilded sweater, where I knit the sleeve without any decreases and then do all the decreases right before the cuff, just to give a little bit of a poofier sleeve. There's something very comfortable about that, and you can put it over other garments so easily. So I'm excited about it. So I went from a slump to I'm excited. And sometimes it's just the matter of a new cast on. And partly I had worked so hard for the first half of the year. I mean, I did a lot of things. I had the retreat, and I introduced the color of the month, and I had the Lent mystery knit along, and I put out 2 patterns, and I did a lot. And so I kind of took a week or 2 where I didn't take it off. I just kind of took a little bit of a rest, like I took it down. And that contributed to my slump too. Like, I am just a person who is happiest when I'm working really hard. Also, the school year is ending, which is great, don't get me wrong, but it's not done yet for my homeschoolers. Excuse me. I think it's the grass pollen. Anyway, I feel like my slump has ended. I'm super pumped to work on this today. And we'll see. I feel like that would be amazing. This combo is fabulous. And also that the meadow is subtle. Can you see it right there? It's not a huge part of it, but I love this together. So we'll see. Will I keep the color work and do it in the June colorway? I don't know, maybe. All right. Finally, my last progress and shop news thing that I want to tell you, and I kind of already mentioned this, is about the Diggory tee. Like I said, I'm about to start writing the pattern. I am toying with the idea of saving the add-ons for a later release, getting the pattern out as it is, just as the t-shirt, because I feel like people are excited about this t-shirt, and I have not had that level of interest about the add-ons. Just to catch you up in case you missed it. The Diggory tee is a very basic t-shirt. I'll put pictures up here. Very basic t-shirt, perfect for summer. I really want to get it out in the summer because it knits up very fast. I don't want to say miles and miles of stockinette because it's not very much. It really has no sleeves at all. It is knit from the bottom up, and it's just a short sleeve. So I was planning on adding mohair sleeves that you would pick up and knit, mohair sleeves that would be slim down to the elbow for those of us who would like to cover up our upper arms, and also a curved hem in mohair to the front and the back. But the way things are going, like things are just slow, and that is part of the work-life balance. That relates back to the Spaces Planner, and we all have to have a work-life balance. We have to stay busy enough that we're happy. In my case, I need to be busy to be happy, but also, you know, I have to clean out my basement, and I have to like mop the floor. Like there are things that have to happen around my house. I have to water the plants, and so I have to do the dishes and make dinner. With all of these things in the work-life balance, I have to schedule my work so that it is doable. So it makes more sense, I feel like, to put the Diggory tee out now as is and just to do the add-ons later. So what that would mean is that by the end of June, hopefully I can take the month of June to write the pattern and, you know, go through it with my tech editor, and then to have the test knit ideally would start beginning of July, end at the end of July, because it's a total 4-week test knit. And then I'd have the pattern out early August. Ideally, that is the timetable. Many of you have expressed interest in test knitting this sweater. I haven't sent out that email yet. So if you're interested in test knitting and you have not already gotten on my spreadsheet, if you've ever sent me a request saying, I want to be a test knitter, you don't need to send another one. I will send out an email to everyone on my spreadsheet saying, do you want to test knit this particular sweater from this date to this date? And if you want to, great. If you don't, that's fine. There's like 250 people on this list. I obviously don't need that many test knitters. So if this is for you, great. If it's not, that's fine too. Okay, moving right along to the comments section. This week, I have skipped my topic of the week because I have so many other things to talk about, like I'm just gonna run out of time. So moving right along to the comments, Colleen, who is the selfish knitter, said, you really had me laughing at the hand exercisers, remember from last week? I have a similar set because I was trying to improve my grip strength. I'm not sure I've made much improvement, but maybe it's because I haven't been making the appropriate facial expressions. Duh, Colleen, hello. It's like when you put on mascara, you have to go, if you are squeezing or you have to make the face. If you don't make the face, you're not going to make any improvements. I thought everybody knew that. If you didn't, now you know. Okay. I have several comments relating to the Banshees of Inishery, which I watched last week with my husband. I have now been banned from choosing any future movies. I frankly might never watch another movie again. Ann Pinkova said, and I read this toward the end of this so we watched the movie last weekend. Like I said, it's possibly the worst movie that was ever made. The cinematography is gorgeous. Scenery, gorgeous. I can't even comment on the acting because the movie was so terrible. The knitting was great, but my husband was like, if you hadn't told me about the knitting, I wouldn't even have seen it. So I remember reading from that article last week, where she said, oh, she might see it again. Oh, how cute. She only saw it once. Yeah, she only saw it once because it's the worst movie that ever was made. So Anne, thank you, Anne, for saying this because I totally agreed. Anne Pankova said, not to hate on the gal's sweater knitting, but the Banshees movie was terrible. Like, gosh, it was bad. It was Oscar bait that didn't even get the Oscar. What a weird film and uncomfortable to watch. Do not watch it. Do not watch it. Just don't. If you're going, Devin, how bad could it be? Why was it so bad? Why do we watch a movie? To escape, to get into a story, to be interested, for maybe a moral, for something that gives purpose to life. A movie is art. And in art, we want to see purpose. Now, I don't want you thinking that I'm some kind of movie snob. I have had long discussions. One comes to mind with a priest friend of mine over the very important topic of which movie was better, Frozen or Tangled. At the time, I took the Tangled position and he took Frozen, and I actually came over to his way of thinking. I do think Frozen is a better movie. So I am open to finding beauty and goodness absolutely anywhere. This movie has no beauty outside of the scenery, the cinematography, and the knitting. There's no beauty in the story. There's no moral. It's like, imagine like a Seinfeld episode that's not funny. That's what it is. It's like Seinfeld that's not funny. It's about nothing. Garbage. Do not watch it. Okay, so have I gotten my point across? Glenda Bathgate says, love the story of the Irish lady. Wow, 83. I am 69 and have knitted since I was 5 years old. I knitted my way through grief. I was 31 when my husband died. I was 33 with a brain tumor and had 2 little boys, aged 10 months and 2. They had every Mr. Men's sweater pattern available. I couldn't sleep. I knitted the then Fireman Sam for Ian, who is now 38, who always wanted to be a firefighter and managed it 12 years ago. And she talks a little bit more about her sons and how blessed she is. That is so great, Glenda. Glenda watches my podcast every week from over there in the UK. Thank you so much for your comment, Glenda. I love it. I love that you're knitting and that story resonated with you. I think it resonated with so many of us. I feel so bad for that poor woman that she knit those beautiful sweaters for such a terrible movie. Judy Crafts 143 says, wow, that's the closest I've ever come to winning something. That was exciting. I made my not at all interested in either knitting or haiku husband watch that part to see if I would win. He pretended to be suitably impressed. That's a good husband, Judy. My husband is also not interested in knitting or haiku, so I totally get it. Carol Morrison said, the movie is out and was up for an Academy Award. The story was very strange, but the knitwear was awesome. That's kind of you, Carol. I feel like that was a very kind thing for you to say. Yeah, I think it was up for an Academy Award because Academy Awards go to garbage movies. I mean, I remember some of my very favorite movies, like A Man for All Seasons, probably my top favorite movie of all time. And Ben-Hur won Academy Awards back in the 50s and 60s. But modern Academy Award movies are just garbage. Prove me wrong. Change my mind. If it exists, I want to know about it. Andrea Kay said, I had heard that story about Delia, my Irish 83-year-old knitter I talked about last time. Andrea says, maybe I missed it here, but I read somewhere that she designed those sweaters for the movie only by looking at old blurry photos from a long time ago. That is true. That was the most amazing part for me. As for the Dot Pebbles frog pattern, I'm not usually one for knitting or crocheting toys because they're too tedious. But I was so intrigued by seeing her patterns on another podcast. So I made 2 frogs, one for my sister-in-law who is super into frogs, and one for me. The knitting itself is too tedious for me, but the end project was worth it. So realistic. Have a great week. I totally agree. I think that her patterns are amazing. They're so realistic, but yet the anthropomorphism with the sweaters and the pants and the glasses, just adorable. Heather Goldsmith said, I loved all the haiku. How wonderfully talented are knitters. So true. I've seen some of the blog posts about the film, and I am sure I would need to watch it several times to see all the knits and not get distracted from the stories. Heather, don't watch it even once. Susan Smith says, oh my goodness, I want some of that bread. It is Sourdough Sunday, you guys. I am so excited. I cannot wait. Last Sunday, sourdough happened early enough that I could eat some on the podcast, but not this week. I don't even think it's in the oven yet. Sometimes Gigi forgets and she puts it in later in the day. Yay, Holly. I love the haiku entries. So fun. Susan says, I know another way to develop your forearm muscles. All you need is a dairy goat. Several years ago, our second son had a small herd of dairy goats that he milked twice daily. By hand, no milking machines here. Well, he was involved in scouting, as were his daddy and brothers. Guess who volunteered to be a substitute milker when they went off on their weekend scouting adventures? My hand and forearm muscles really got a workout back then. So if we each got a dairy goat to milk, we should be able to avoid those knitting injuries. Genius. I love it. Also, when this lymphedema thing happened with my hand, I found a bunch of exercises that help. So like I said, I have that stupid pump that I hate, that I can do. I could do it as often as I want, but I basically have to lay down for an hour and it covers my whole arm and hand. So I just have to lay there and like listen to an audiobook. But also exercises include lifting my arm and doing, squeezing exercises. Now, the only thing about the dairy goat is it doesn't get the extensors. So you need the dairy goat and this to get the full workout. But if you had the dairy goat, you'd also have milk. So that sounds awesome. Jean Ellis says, though there is no pattern for your sad time sweater, the one I wore last week, could you tell us how you constructed it? A short class on cast on and go designing, please. Is there a row of increases at the cap of the sleeves? It looks so relaxed and cheerful now that you have finished it. Let me grab it. I don't remember. Okay. So this is the sweater that Jean is asking about. And what I said last week is that I basically just cast on and went. I just wanted to knit something. And this yarn was so beautiful. I got it from Kim Dye's Yarn and I just loved it so much. And so here's how I did it. Basically, if you want just a brief, 60-second explanation. And this has been a while ago, so I can't give you the details, but what I can say is, if you have a sweater that you knit, that you like the way it fits, and you want to work with that same weight of yarn, it's very simple. If it's a top-down sweater, just cast on the same number of stitches. And then if you're going to do raglan shaping, if you're going to do a seat of your pants sweater like this, I recommend raglan shaping. That's a super easy way to do it. You don't have to write anything down. Basically, I'm trying to think the best way to do it. I would say an easy way to do it is to divide the stitches into 6 equal parts, giving 2 parts for the front, 2 parts for the back, and 1 part each for the sleeves. And that, it doesn't have to be that way. There's a million ways you could do it. If you have a raglan that you like, you can even just use the stitch counts for that and just off you go. And then when I got about this far down the sleeve, across most of the top of it, almost the entire sleeve, I did a knit front and back. Maybe it was a knit one, knit front and back. No, it looks like I knit front and back every stitch, and that increased the sleeve. And then I just did no decreases when I got to the sleeve, and then I just winged it. And I think I just winged it. And I would try it on and see. I think I tried this a couple times where I did a knit 2 together. I think I ended up doing a knit 1, knit 2 together at my cuff, and then I just, checked to see how it fit. And same here. You can kind of work off a pattern that already exists if you want to be super lazy and do no math. And probably if you're an experienced enough knitter, especially with raglans, it won't be that hard. That's really non-specific, but that's kind of how I did it. I just flew by the seat of my pants. And I know there are the engineer types out there whose brains are going, what? And if that's not your thing, that's totally fine. Do the math. If you live in math land, do the math. If you have more of an art brain like me, then you can fly by the seat of your pants. And the last comment I want to share is from the Yarny Goodness podcast. Look at this. I'm at 40 minutes and I've omitted knitting fantasies and the topic of the week. Okay. The Yarny Goodness podcast says, right now I dream of 100 subscribers. So everybody go search for the Yarny Goodness podcast and subscribe, because this girl must be new to the podcast world and she needs some subscribers. Okay, last segment of today is, so here's what happened. And today I'm going to be sharing the second article from Anne Marie, and this one is from the Epic Times, from the Life and Tradition section. Now, this article is actually pretty detailed about small towns and local libraries, and it is called Small Towns, Big Hearts. So it's a good article. It's long, but I'm just going to be focusing on the yarny parts. So this lovely lady's name is Susie Baumgartner. She is the outgoing library director at Unicoi County Public Library in Erwin, Tennessee, at a crochet class offered by the library. And this article talks about many different programs that are offered through small town local libraries. There's one called Stephen Ministries, and they talk about how they offer counseling and classes for people who are experiencing grief. And she says, we're there for people after the casseroles stop. So there's a lot of great things that local libraries offer. And in a world where, I have children and we do a lot of going to the library for books, and not all libraries are kid friendly anymore. And so it was really nice to read this, especially where I live. I live in a very suburban, urban kind of area. And so, libraries just aren't as kid friendly as they used to be. So it's nice to see that in small towns, there's still so many great programs. The Unicoi County Public Library organizes a Yarn Bomb event every March to celebrate National Read Across America Week, draping tree trunks, utility poles, and more with crocheted pieces. And I think that is Read Across America Month is in March, because that's when Theodore Geisel's birthday is. And you might know him as Dr. Seuss. I believe it's March 2nd. And so that's why March is reading month. It's a big reading month for kids, and it looks like for adults too. But he talks about the guy who wrote this article actually lives in Front Royal, Virginia. His name is Jeff Minnick. And that's where my parents live. And that's about 40 minutes away. And I have a wonderful customer named Lori who lives there. Hi, Lori. Front Royal is just beautiful. But particularly, this article it kind of goes all around. But it talks about a crochet class brings members of the community at the Unicoi County Public Library in Erwin, Tennessee. So here are some more pictures from that library. And it says, the little library with a big heart. I really think the library is the hub of our community, said Susie Baumgartner. Susie lives in nearby Johnson City, Tennessee, with her 3 sons and her husband, Tim, who directs a gap year house there for young men discerning a vocation in ministry. But her affections for Erwin and its library clearly run deep. And she goes on for a little bit about the library, but it's just lovely. I just think it's a great article. Does anybody out there do any yarn-related stuff at their local library? One of my good friends and her husband, it's her husband who is on the library board here in, I live in Fauquier County, but I'm right on the line between Fauquier and Prince William. And so we do a lot of things in Prince William County. My older kids go to school not in a county school, but in a Catholic school in Prince William County. And he's on the library board there. And so he's always sending me stuff. They have a maker's space in one of the Prince William libraries. I think it might be Bull Run. And there's yarn, and so they have classes and stuff there. I haven't really reached out to it to, get involved with it at all. But anyway, I thought that was really cool. I have a knitting story to share with you next week. My wonderful friend Sherry from Florida sent it to me, and it's great. She's actually told it to me a couple times, but she's like, don't share it yet. I want to get it just right. So I'm very excited to be sharing that story next week. If you have a knitting story, please send it to me. Take a video of yourself telling it. I would love to share that, or you can write it out and I'll read it for you. So join me next week. This podcast ended up being 45 minutes, even without those 2 segments. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. Happy Sunday, knitters. Bye.